Hello, welcome to Planet 40k. We've got an interesting video for you today. We're going to be doing a 1000 point competitive Necrons list. Now not only are we going to be doing a list build today, but we're also doing a collaboration with IDIC Beer 40k, so that's another Necron channel. They've been going around for 12-13 years. Nick at the channel, he knows his stuff when it comes to Necrons. So he's going to be reviewing the list, and he will also be putting out his own video to give us some feedback on our list. Now he's actually going to be doing the exact same thing. He's got a 1000 point list build come out at the exact same time, so after this video, feel free to check out Nick's channel and give him some feedback on his list, and I'll be doing the exact same in my next video. So without further ado, let's move on with the video. In fact guys, before we do actually get into the list build, just wanted to steer your attention to our members area on the channel. We've got 3 tiers on the members area. You simply have to click the join button for more information. Now further to add to this, we've also got a Discord where people that have joined the YouTube members area will be given a unique rank within the actual Discord server. So we've got some examples on the screen what people have already been selecting, and that's a unique rank that no one else can be taking. Now that we've done with all the plugs, let's move on to the actual list. So this will be an incursion mission, so we're only going to be getting 3 command points before the game actually begins. But we will be gaining 2 command points per battle round. That's with the new chapter approved book that's come out recently. Now I just wanted to let you know of some restrictions to playing incursion missions. So first of all, with the exception of troops or dedicated transport battlefield roles, you can only select a single datasheet twice in an incursion battle. So you can't be spamming, say for example, 4 units of Canoptic Scarabs. You are limited to 2 in incursion battles. And then furthermore, the maximum number of detachments allowed in an incursion mission is 2. So you also can't be spamming your detachments either. Okay, so let's get on to the actual list. Starting off, go big or go home, we're bringing a Supreme Command detachment. So you know where this is going. This is going to be for the Silent King, who's very kindly become cheaper for us to use. He's now only 400 points for the unit. That's going to be the Silent King himself and the 2 Trichominirs. Now with the Silent King having 16 wounds and then 2 Trichominirs having 5 wounds apiece, that's a total combined 26 wounds for the entire unit. Now there's plenty of weaponry within the unit. I'm not going to go through all of them, this isn't a review video, but I'm going to definitely be making use of all of these weapons. So as already mentioned in the intro, you're going to be starting an incursion mission with 3 command points. Now when you bring the Silent King, he's got an ability called the Silent King, and if your army is battle forged, you gain an additional 3 command points to start with. So now all of a sudden we're going to start the game with 6 command points. Then we probably should add here that from the balanced data slate, the Silent King did gain the core keyword along with all the other vehicles within the Necron Codex. So all of the abilities that he has, all the aura abilities, so Fair on the Stars, Fair on the Blades, Relentless March, even the Mine Will Be Done ability, all of those abilities are going to work on himself now, along with other core units that are nearby. Then of course not to forget that he is an anti-psyker model, he can deny a psychic power, and he also fights first in the fight phase. So this detachment alone of course is 400 points. Now let's get on to the real stuff. The dynasty I've chosen today is the Zerican dynasty, so that's going to match the Silent King's dynasty. So we're going to be getting that 5+ Feel No Pain save against mortal wounds. We're going to be able to reroll a single wound roll in any given phase. And also from Protocol of Undying Legions, we're going to be gaining both the command protocols army wide. Now just bear in mind that the Silent King does not have access to the dynasty buffs, so no 5+ Feel No Pain save for the Silent King and no rerolls to the wound rolls, unless of course he's using his own ability. In melee he can be doing that anyway. So this detachment is going to be a patrol detachment, so all it requires is 1 or 2 HQs and 1, 2 or 3 troop selections, and then 2 of any of the other battlefield roles. Now this usually will cost you 2 command points to take a patrol detachment. However, if you're taking the Silent King Supreme Command detachment, you pretty much get a refund on any of the 3 main detachments. So as you can see here, +2 command points if your army includes a patrol detachment. So it's effectively now going to be free of charge to take that patrol detachment. So first of all, we're going with the HQ of this detachment, and it's going to be a Technomancer. Now he's been reduced to 70 points. The main reason to be taking this guy is the Rites of Reanimation ability. For Dynasty core units within 6 inches, you get to pretty much bring a model back. Now currently at the time of filming this video, you can still bring back the Trichominirs with the Technomancer. Now that strategy isn't something I'm going to be using in this actual list, although it will be an option if I wanted to. But you'll see later in this video that the Technomancer and the Silent King, they probably won't be in the same area of the actual battlefield. As for the war gear for the Technomancer, bringing the Canoptic Cloak is free of charge now. So he gains a 10-inch movement, he's got the fly keyword, and he can also heal D3 lost wounds to a dynasty model within 3 inches. Now I'm going to be spending a command point here, gaining a relic, which is going to be the Veil of Darkness relic. We'll talk more about that in the tactics section later in this video. Now I'm going to actually add a piece of Arcana to the Technomancer. I'm going to use the Prismatic Obfuscation. I still can't pronounce that correctly, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the one where the bearer has to be the closest eligible model in order to be a target of ranged attacks. Now with the changes to the Bodyguard ability quite recently, the Cryptothralls don't actually bodyguard model anymore. They just simply give him the Lookout Sir ability, and of course snipers can ignore that. Whereas with this Cryptek Arcana, they can't actually ignore it, they cannot target him at all unless he's the closest eligible model. Now to be honest, I don't normally take this Cryptek Arcana, but I had 15 points spare at the end of the list. So all in all, this brings the Technomancer to 85 points, and so far the list build is 485 points. So as you can see from the patrol detachment, we've already done our HQ selections. Let's move on to the troops. Now I've selected a single squad of Immortals, this 5-man squad. They're going to be costing us 80 points, and they're going to be taking those Gorse Blasters, which are Strength 5, minus 2 AP, 1 damage, and they've got 30-inch Rapid Fire 1 as well. These are going to be likely holding the back lines, holding our home objective, but we've got that mandatory troop selection all covered up here. And this is going to bring the list to 565 points, and this actually closes the patrol detachment. We've got the 2 mandatory battlefield roles completed, so from here on out it's pretty much free reign. Now this is where the list gets quite quirky. Within the elite selections, I've gone with 2 Triox Stalkers. Now before this balanced data slate, I rarely used Triox Stalkers. They were quite mediocre, but they've now gained the core keyword. But let's talk about the points of the war gear before we talk about the actual Stalkers themselves. So 2 of these is going to cost us 240 points. They gained a points reduction quite recently. Now as for the war gear, I'm going to be putting the particle shredders on both of the Triox Stalkers. These are free options, so I don't need to be paying any extras for the heat ray or that twin heavy Gorse cannon. This is a complete free upgrade. And one of the reasons you're taking the Triox Stalkers is for that targeting relay. So as soon as you make a ranged attack and a hit is scored, until the end of the phase, each time other friendly Necron models make a ranged attack against that same enemy unit, they get to reroll hit rolls over 1. Now don't get me wrong, that is a really nice ability, but that isn't really the reason I brought the Triox Stalkers, so stick around to the end of the video in the tactics section where I'll explain more. But right now, in terms of the actual list build, we're up to 805 points. So almost already at 1000 points. Moving on to the fast attack, we've got a little unit of Canoptic Scarabs, only a 3 Scarab unit. That's coming up at 45 points. I always say they're the best unit in the Necron Codex. Cheap as chips, they can be used as a screen, they can be jumping on objectives, doing actions. They've got plenty of wounds to survive a little bit longer, and sometimes they're barely seen because of their flat bases. So a really good unit. Now this is going to be taking us up to 850 points. Now we've only got 150 points left, and as soon as you jump into the heavy support section, you'll see we've got the Locust Heavy Destroyers. They're now only 50 points a model. So I'm of course going to be taking 3 of them. I think you only should take them in groups of 3. Any less, they're just not as good. You need to be guaranteeing those wounds going through in-run saves and things so that they can get onto the actual damage. Now of course I'm going to be taking the Gorse Destructors. That damage 3d3 is absolutely massive, with an average of 6 damage for any wounds that go through. So this does take us to 1000 points on the nose. So that's the first half of the video done. Now we're going to be talking about the command protocols, we're going to be talking about the tactics and the secondary objectives that we're going to be trying to achieve. Starting off with the permanent command protocol that we're going to be having throughout the game. We're going to be using the protocol of Undying Legions, and bearing in mind that the dynasty we've selected is the Zerican dynasty, so army wide we're going to have access to both of these directives for the entire game. So directive 1, getting double living metal, that's going to be really nice for your Triox Stalkers, your Silent King in particular with the Trichomoneers. Even those Canoptic Scarab Swarms are going to benefit from this as well. Or directive 2, each time you use reanimation protocols you can re-roll one of the dice. Maybe that's going to be good for the Immortals. There's not that many single wound models with reanimation protocols in this list, so I'm not banking on directive 2 to make that much of an impact in the game. Mainly I'm using this for directive 1. Now tactics, let's talk about tactics. So the first tactic is kind of obvious here. The 2 Triox Stalkers are going to be going with the Silent King. Now the Silent King has got the Pharaon ability, so his Mine Will Be Done ability, he can be selecting 2 completely different core units within 9 inches of the Silent King, and they don't need to be a Dynasty core unit, it's just a Necron's core unit because of course he's a Dynastic agent. There's also going to be a lot of combinations coming from his other abilities, so the Pharaon of Stars, Aura, so Necron core units within 6 inches are going to get to reroll their hit rolls. Then the Pharaon of Blades ability, so friendly core units within 6 inches are going to get to reroll their wound rolls. So lots of rerolls for both the Triox Stalkers and of course the Relentless March Aura as well. So instead of moving 10 inches, they're going to be moving 11 inches. Now the reason I've chose Triox Stalkers as opposed to say Canoptic Wraiths or Scorpet Destroyers, or even the Annihilation Barges that have gained the core keyword now. The reason for the Triarch Stalkers is I wanted both a melee unit as well as a shooting unit, but I also wanted them to be quite resilient. Now these Triarch Stalkers have got 12 wounds apiece and their toughness 6. But that toughness 6 doesn't always matter because of course they've got quantum shielding, which is a 5+ invulnerable save, as well as wound rolls of a 1, 2 or 3 always failing. So that's going to make the Triarch Stalkers pretty tanky, and it's not going to matter too much whether they're in engagement range or not, because they're going to have their Strength 7, Stalker 4 limbs, which can of course use the stratagem Disruption Fields to be adding +1 to the strength characteristics of models in the unit. Now optionally here, I could have used the protocol of Hungry Void to gain that extra strength if I wanted to, so maybe I'll save that for maybe turn 3, where I'd hope the Triarch Stalkers were actually in a melee fight at that stage. I'd of course like them to have strength 8, -2 AP and damage 3. But also, as they are vehicle models, they can shoot into combat. Now I've only kitted them out with the anti-infantry weapon, which is the Particle Shredder, which is 8 shots, strength 6, -1 AP and 2 damage, pretty much re-rolling everything to hit. So these weapons should be removing quite a lot of infantry models. Now we've of course got some anti-tank in the list. The Silent King is one of them, with the Trichominids having the Annihilation Beams, both of them being strength 12, -4 AP and a flat 6 damage. Don't forget he's re-rolling everything to hit. Likely wounded on a 2+ or a 3+. And yeah, -4 AP, damage 6, that's going to hurt something. Now if that wasn't enough anti-tank in the list, we've got the 3 Locust Heavy Destroyers, of course with the Gorse Destructors. Now this is where the Technomancer comes in. I like to use this little combination where I put the Technomancer with my Locust Heavy Destroyers right at the back of the field, because of course they've got a 36-inch range. And now we're only playing on a 1,000 point list, so the battlefield size is actually quite small. So putting them as far back as they can go, they should still be able to fire. Now what I like to do, of course using the Canoptic Cloak, you could be healing them D3 lost wounds, and then further to add with the Rites of Reanimation ability, you'll be bringing one back each and every time. Now your opponent is not going to like the fact that you can be throwing out so much damage from these guys, which has only cost 150 points. Now the backup plan to having this Technomancer is, well, first of all that Arcana where he can't be targeted, so he'll be at the very back, he will not be the closest eligible model to be targeted. But remember also that I've gave him the Veil of Darkness relic for a command point, so if a unit does get too close for comfort, we can just literally zip these guys to the other end of the battlefield, get them into a nice bit of space, give them a bit of comfort and some breathing room. I mean, the movement alone should get them out of bother. They've got an 8-inch movement and that includes the Technomancer, and they can move and fire heavy, and they've got fly as well, so they shouldn't really be getting caught out, especially if you use the next 2 units that I'm going to talk about as some screening models. So that's going to be the Immortals as well as the Canoptic Scarabs. Now I know there's not that much here, there's only 8 models. Both of these units are likely going to be doing some backline screening to prevent some alpha deep strikes. They've got the potential of doing actions if they wanted to, but really they're just going to be staying on the home objective. Potentially you can be moving one of those units out to another objective nearby. But both of these units aren't really going to be going that far. Now speaking of secondary objectives, the 3 that I've selected for this list are as follows. So the first one from the Purge the Enemy list is Code of Combat. If you're taking the Silent King, you should always be taking the Code of Combat. You score 3 victory points if an enemy unit was destroyed by a ranged attack from a Necron's Noble, or 4 victory points if a Necron's Noble destroyed the enemy unit in melee. Now the Silent King is the only noble within our list, so he's the only one to actually be able to score these victory points, but at 1,000 points there's not always enough to take out big models such as the Silent King. Now in addition, each time an enemy character is destroyed in melee by the Silent King, we're going to be gaining command points as well. So that's secondary objective number 1. As for number 2, it's coming from the Battlefield Supremacy list, and we've gone with Purge the Vermin. Now even though Purge the Vermin got a slight nerf in this new chapter approved book, it's still pretty much used in most games that Necron players play. So you're scoring 1 victory point for each table quarter that has no enemy units wholly within it, and you're also scoring a victory point if there are no enemy units in your deployment zone. And now you can be scoring this from turn 1 as opposed to turn 2 onwards. Now especially when you're playing a 1,000 point game, it's quite easy for your opponent to not be in quarters, and you can actually start targeting units that are pretty much alone in a certain quarter, get them off the board to be scoring some victory points with Purge the Vermin. Now number 3, I've kind of left it open for discussion, likely going to be choosing Grind Them Down. I've not really got any options. I mean, in terms of the Shadow Operations list, I don't really want to be doing actions with my list. Now I could use the command protocol of Sudden Storm to be doing actions while still firing, but most of the secondary objectives that require actions basically require an infantry model to do it, or maybe a biker model to do it, so that's only really going to leave my Immortals. Now of course there's the Ancient Machineries, where the Canoptic Scarabs can also get involved, but that's only a single 3-man unit, so I don't really want to be relying too heavily on my Immortals or the Scarabs to be doing actions in this game. So killing units seems to be the way I want to be going, so grind them down is a possible option from the No Mercy No Respite list. Now it also depends on who you're going up against. If you're going up against a Psyker heavy list, then why not take Abba the Witch from the Warcraft section, scoring victory points for taking out Psykers. So yeah, for me it's going to be Code Combat, Purge the Vermin, and very likely going to be grind them down as my third option. Okay, so that's the end of my list build. It's quite a quirky, different list. I'm a little bit worried in terms of scoring actual points, but it does seem quite a fun list to play and I can't wait to try it. So as already mentioned in the intro guys, I'm going to be doing some feedback for Nick's list, so check out Nick's video now, link in the description below. Other than that guys, all that's really left to say, thank you all for watching, see you next time.